How's it going, 10 little hot dog cuties? Today I want to talk about how applying very early to medical school actually helped me land an acceptance and receive multiple invites. So this video is not about me bragging, it's actually sharing this information with you guys so you guys kind of have an understanding of how an early application can make an average application go from having 1 or 2 interviews to having more than 10. So let me give you guys my stats. So I had over a 3.9 GPA, and for a lot of pre-med students, getting over a 3.9 GPA is pretty normal. And some of you guys have 3.7, 3.8, maybe some of you guys have less than a 3.5. That's totally fine. As long as you're meeting the national average, which is around 3.7 and a couple of standard deviations over and under, you're pretty good for med school. As long as you have everything else covered, such as shadowing and extracurriculars. My extracurriculars, I did research and I did clinical experience, which is pretty average for the average applicant. If you are underperforming and you know that your medical school resume is not that great, this video is not for you. This is for someone who has met all the requirements to actually get accepted to medical school, but they're kind of in the middle. So they're unsure of themselves, kind of like how I was. I had really good stats as far as GPA and extracurriculars, but my MCAT score wasn't the best. So I'm not going to give the direct MCAT score that I had, but let's just say it was between 505 to 510. So it's actually in the national median for accepted students, but it does not go above and beyond. But I still managed to land 11 interviews. And I'm going to be totally honest, 90% of that is because of me applying early and applying to the right places and actually really expressing myself in my secondaries. But today I really want to focus on why the early application helped me plummet my application to getting that many interviews. So let's just look at the medical school application process. So most medical schools operate on a rolling basis. That means they don't wait for everyone to send in their applications. They review applications as they're being sent in. So let's say you submit your application on the very first day that AMCAS becomes open. That means when AMCAS sends out those primary applications, you're going to be at the very top quartile of applications they review, which means that these medical schools are going to pick students from the very top quartile first for interviews, because they can't wait. They can't sit on their butts and wait for other applications. There's just way too many applications to review if they wait till the last moment. Yes, there are a couple of schools that don't do rolling, but the majority of schools do rolling admissions, and that is key to getting accepted because of applying early. Another thing that I have to point out is that after you get your primaries, medical schools, once they receive them and review them, they send out secondaries in waves. They don't send out secondaries immediately. So when they send out these secondaries, if they review you first, you're gonna get those secondaries early. You do those secondaries as quick as possible. You also have to be very quick on the secondaries. You're not going to get an advantage if you do your primary super early and then wait on your secondary to submit that. Okay? So you have to submit your primaries early, you have to submit your secondaries early, but never ever sacrifice the content of your primary and secondary for the sake of time. You have to do it early, but you have to make sure the content there is good, because if you send it as fast as possible, but your primary application, your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, and your intent on why you're going to applying to that school is bad, they don't want you. So you're gonna have to do both. So focus on that first. But now I'm gonna give you my personal account of how I turned in secondaries and how I got interviews. And I'm also gonna share a couple of my friends who applied late and a couple of my friends who applied early, just as I did. So me specifically, I had my AMCAS application in the day of the day of that it was open, I had my secondaries in within a day or two of getting them in my email. And a lot of you guys are thinking, Ben, sometimes these secondaries are incredibly long. How did you manage to get them in within 1 or 2 days? The thing is, guys, most of these schools use the same essay style questions years over and over and over again, and there are websites like Student Doctor Network and other websites that have these secondaries up that you can view. So what I did is that before I even applied, I had a good month of nothing to do, and what I did is I worked on those secondaries of the schools I really, really, really wanted to attend, and I turned them in within a day or two of receiving that secondary. Now, my first interview invite, I got it within the second week of July. I got my second one near the end of July. I got 2 more in August. I got 3 more in September. So by the time it was September, which is still very early in the cycle, I had 3 plus 2, can't even do math. I had around 7 interviews, and then I got 4 more throughout the rest of the year. But the crux of the interviews that I received was within the first 2 months of me applying. And for a lot of people, they apply in September, which means they're missing out on the interviews that are given out in July and August, which puts them at a huge disadvantage. Unless you have above average stats, you should never ever take that risk. I had average stats. My stats were average. And I was very successful because I submitted my application earlier than most people do. Because most people apply from October to September, which is pretty average. And even if you apply early but still not get interviews on the first 2 months, don't feel bad. As long as you're not rejected, you're still in the running. And for a lot of medical schools in general, I cannot speak for a specific medical school. This is just information I received on the internet with Student Doctor Network, which I'm relaying back to you, and talking to admissions committee members and students. A lot of medical schools, if you're not rejected and you're still in the running, but you're still not given an invite, if you have your application in July, they will review all the applicants and be like, we like this candidate, but we think there are other students who can do better at our school, so they don't give you the interview, but they scoot your interview to the next month's board meeting. So you are reviewed over and over again throughout the cycle. As long as you're not rejected, expect that you're being reviewed over and over again. So if you apply super early, you're gonna get reviewed over and over and over and over and over and over again until they might actually give you an interview. There was this one school I applied super early to, and they didn't give me an interview until November, but they didn't reject me. That means they reviewed my application a number of times and then was like, okay, I think it's okay to give this student an interview. Now let's talk about some other people that I know that either applied late or applied early. So I have another friend who I personally know that he didn't do so well in undergrad. In the beginning of his undergrad, he had an upward trend, and then he just knocked everything out of the park. And his MCAT score was in the 98th percentile, and he's amazing, he's super talented, but there were just mistakes that were made early on in his undergrad career. But he applied super early, and yeah, he, let's just say he had over 5 to 7 top 10 interviews because he applied early. And it's not just because he applied early, he had everything else that was like totally amazing, but a key factor is because he applied super early. And another friend of mine who I can personally say is much smarter, much more talented, much greater than I will ever be, but she applied in November. She applied that late. Did not get a single acceptance. Yes, she got interviews, but she kept on getting on the wait list. There's no other reason why she would get on the wait list if she applied earlier. And guess what, guys? The next year she applied early, totally blew it out of the park. Multiple acceptances, multiple interviews. It just shows that having a great application does not mean that you can get in. It's so competitive, guys. Take every advantage that you can. Apply early, do great, knock it out of the park, and you guys, you can get into medical school. I love you guys. I hope you like this video. I hope you guys stick around for more of my videos, or even watch my Twitch channel where I share my passion of gaming and even have a live conversation with me, or watch my really stupid video best skits unedited raw miniseries on IGTV. Feel free to follow me in any of my social media links. I love you. Mwah. This has been Keep Dreaming, Keep Fighting, Keep Doing What You Believe in. Mwah.